Hi and welcome back to Parkitect. This episode is kind of split into two halves. The first half I'm just gonna finish off this main street to some extent that I feel like I can transition into the rest of the park and work on that as well. And in the second part, in the second part of this video, I'm actually gonna try that and see if I can build my first real themed roller coaster. Something to note about that though is that the last couple of minutes of this episode are missing since I was trying to record me doing the scenery and foliage of said roller coaster, and then I forgot that my entire HDD was already riddled with too many videos and Fraps failed to record a video after that part. Which is why this video is a bit short and a bit before I would have liked it to end, but I don't think that's too big of an issue. There's a couple of things I also want to say about the first video of this series. I've got some feedback about, the time-lapse sort of structure that I have to these videos, and whether some people actually wanted to get some real-time gameplay as well as time-lapses, but I do have to say about that, I'm probably not going to do it. I went with this entire idea of time-lapsing my videos simply because, well, I'm not too great of a live Let's Player myself, I think, anyway. But I just kind of like playing the video on my own or live streaming. I mean, I kind of like playing the game on my own or live streaming it and then just speed it up, and I just do this improvised commentary over it since I feel like it's a bit better than just slapping random music over it. And if people really want to listen to music while watching this, I suppose you can always open a new tab with the music that you like and mute this video. I actually heard that some people to listen to my videos but don't watch them, which is pretty funny as well. So yeah, that's pretty much about that. That being said, I do think I might want to do some real-time tours of the parks after I finish them in Parkitect, since I'm obviously not going to be able to do cinematic footage as I can in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. So I think I do want to have real-time sort of let's play playthroughs of the parks that I make in the end. And what I might do, but I'm not even sure about that, is do the coaster designs real time. But the issue is with that I do take quite a lot of time sometimes to make my coasters. There's going to be a Woody in this series somewhere, and that took over an hour to make. And even if I cut into that, it's going to be either very long real-time footage of me trying to build a coaster and horrendously failing, or it's going to be weird cutted short sections of video everywhere, which I don't think really works for this type of game. So yeah, that's about that. That being said though, I am pretty much hooked to this game already, and the community is really awesome, and I'm very surprised actually by all the awesome positive feedback on the first video. I was almost fearing a bit of a lukewarm reception of that video, since I figured it would be maybe too bit of a niche content, and I don't know if people who were interested in Roller Coaster 3 would actually be interested in this game. But so far it actually sort of seems to reflect my enthusiasm, so I'm really happy about that. Now I haven't even really talked about the stuff that happens in this video yet, but honestly it's not really too interesting. I don't know if I really thoroughly described what sort of theme I'm trying to go for in this park, but I want to get a bit of a alpine-ish theme, which is going to be very tough since there aren't any of the, well, typically alpine pieces yet. Some very fundamental things are still missing, but it's the overall sort of atmosphere that I try to go for, which is why I have all these very standard roofs, and I'm trying as much as I can to avoid using these specific western facades. But still, I do have to say, for anybody who doesn't know, there are currently only 2 building sets out for this game. One is the generic building set, and one is a western building set, which makes it kind of tough to actually try other themes as well. But I've actually seen some people try it. Somebody actually made a Asian park already, which is really awesome. So yeah, there's a lot of versatility in how you can use the pieces, and that's basically what I'm trying to get at with this scenery over here. That being said, also keep in mind that most of the videos that I'll upload in the upcoming period, and this is also something that was briefly discussed in the comment section of the last video, is the fact that much of the videos which you're watching right now are pre-recorded, and quite a while too. Right now that I'm commentating over this, it's already a couple of days ago, but I've already worked 5 episodes ahead as we speak. So when it comes to new mods that come out, it's very outdated, but also when it comes to giving feedback on the park, if you think there's anything that I should improve upon, you can always say it, but at the moment I'm already a couple of episodes ahead, so it's gonna take quite a while to actually get that feedback into the park. So that's something to keep in mind. And about the rest over here, I was basically figuring, you can see a bit of, well, contrast in how I was trying to build the main street and how I'm trying to build the rest of the park, since I initially started out thinking that I would turn this into a bit of a Disneyland, a pre-planned park which would have certain areas and a perfectly symmetrical layout, but I think in the end I don't want to go for that, so it's really only something that you can see in the main street, and the rest of this park will just be very improvised, won't really have any specific areas, and I'll just much more focus on individual attractions and places. And this is basically where I start working on that first little junior coaster over here, which is gonna be the first real themed coaster that I ever make in this game. I've tried to build a couple of especially steel coasters and a number of other types, really just to try them and see how the coaster creator works and see if I can kind of get used to it. And this was pretty much the point where I felt confident enough that I could actually build a simple roller coaster like this. That being said, it's gonna turn into one big fest of helixes. I think in hindsight I probably should have kept it down on the helixes just a little bit more, but I do sort of like it. I suppose it's good for a first little roller coaster in this game. It's for anybody who's played the original RCT, I was kind of inspired by Gentle Glen, which is a scenario over here, to get this sort of colorful purple color scheme going and kind of let this junior coaster ride over the hills and things like that, which it is pretty good for. Though so far it's been sort of tough since this roller coaster type doesn't really have any sort of steep slopes. And yeah, this was pretty much my first test of the layouts and it really fell too short. It was still very fast at the end of the layouts. I don't know if the friction settings are going to be adjusted in the future, but it does seem at the moment like, especially this coaster type, doesn't have a lot of friction. It takes a very long layout to actually slow down enough to get some decent speed going to head into the station. But yeah, that's probably also one of the reasons why there are so many helixes in this ride. I did want to fill a certain area and I wanted it to be quite large, but I didn't want this ride to ever reach very high speeds, since it's pretty much my junior coaster in this park and it's already quite large and heavily themed for a junior coaster. So it's already a bit of an experiment in that sort of sense. And I say theming, but it's really not going to be too well themed. Don't expect too much. I'm just going to plop down some random little wooden cabins and a small observation tower and some simple foliage, rockwork, grass, things like that. I'm very sorry that you're going to have to miss me building that stuff. I probably should have actually looked at the FPS counter of Fraps, which, if you don't know, if you're recording in Fraps, the FPS counter turns red, so you know that you're recording, and if it stops recording, the FPS counter turns yellow, so you kind of know that you're not recording at that point. But I always forget to look at that thing, so I was happily building on this coaster trying to record my Let's Play, but in the meantime it already stopped recording, so that was kind of clumsy. But yeah, this is the basic sort of ride, really not too heavily themed. The station is pretty simple as well. It was more of a test to kind of see how this would work out, but I'm still quite happy about it. And the terraforming is really just because I felt like it was a bit simple and repetitive to just have simple grass everywhere. So I wanted to get this, I don't know exactly what it is. If it's a darker shade of grass, it seems to be a darker shade of grass, but looking at it right like this, it also kind of looks like some muddy sort of texture. But yeah, I kind of wanted to get that in, get a bit of a swamp-ish look going around the water especially, and later on just plop down random logs, random little objects that you can place like barrels and small boxes to kind of decorate it. But yeah, again, you're kind of missing out on that. This was also a bit inspired by Forest Frontiers, the first scenario, which kind of also had those little houses in the middle of the forest, to just make it look a bit less repetitive and actually have very light theming without making the entire ride, well, kind of like a Disneyland themed roller coaster. And yeah, that's the basic thing. From this observation tower, I'll just be doing some simple foliage and simple decorations around the ride, but I'm sorry, you're gonna have to miss that, and you'll see it in the next episode, I suppose, so see you there.